Hey guys, I am super excited to read this book with you guys. There was quite a bit of interest to read Mama Bear Apologetics. Like I said, I just kind of came across this podcast just randomly. I try to get into the podcast world. Sometimes I'm good at it, sometimes I'm not. I just think it's a really good way to use my downtime if I'm just like doing dishes and everyone's asleep, doing those kinds of things. And so I came across their podcast, which is great. So I highly encourage, if you have some extra time, go to their podcast, subscribe, and this is no plug, they're not sponsoring me in any way, but go listen to them. They're awesome. And then they said they had a book, and so I was like, that's a great idea to read that book. And so I started reading it. I have made it through the foreword and a couple pages of the first chapter, and I immediately was just like, oh my goodness, more moms should read this book. More parents, just in general. If your husbands want to read it too, this is great. I'm probably going to make my husband read it, if not read it to him or make him read over the pages I think are really good. And so it is just such a good book for parents. So I'm excited to start this group with anybody who's interested. So what is apologetics? Basically, apologetics is being able to answer questions, being able to argue our side of why the Bible is true, why God's word stands the way it is, and why we believe it, why we stand with it, why it is our whole worldview. And so it's not for arguments, but it's being able to support what we believe. Because most of us as parents, we have pretty much, especially if you are like, yeah, I'm interested in this book, it's because you've already made the commitment in your faith that yes, I absolutely believe this is 100% true. But maybe you don't always know how to answer the questions, or the questions your kids give you, or even friends give you, coworkers, bosses, whatever. We are constantly in a world of people with unbelievers. And so this is just an amazing book to start reading, not only just to be able to explain questions that your kids may have, but also for, this helps us in a much broader sense, that it helps us with anyone that we may witness to in our lives. But not only that, what I love about this book is it already has touched on the fact that, being a parent, apologetics, and just the whole support of the Bible is not for us just to like extinguish questions or just kind of hit it like there's that game where like everything just kind of pops up, the little mole pops up, whack-a-mole, that's what it is. We're not just being parents that are just kind of like, oh, there's a question, get that question, get that question, get that question. No, it's transforming our kids' minds to where they think biblically, they think critically, they know how to have a biblical worldview, so that way, just like we take in oxygen, this is what this book says, just like we take in oxygen and we inhale all the things, we only exhale carbon dioxide, like we keep the good, we exhale the bad. And that's exactly what we want our kids to be able to do, because our culture is going to be throwing so many things at them, saying, this is what you believe, or everybody can believe whatever they want, or how do you know what yours is true? Just there's going to be so many things, just like there was when we were growing up, but even more so for our kids, which is why we want them to not just be able to support their faith and have answers to support their faith and answers for our kids, but we also want them to think biblically. We want them to be able to take in everything and be able to exhale what's the bad, get rid of those worldviews that are not biblical, be able to discern what is truth and what is not. And so I'm so excited. This is something I'm super passionate about, is just parenting in general. And I am by no means a perfect parent. I make so many mistakes. So I enjoy learning about it. I enjoy growing. One of my biggest prayers is just that God gives me wisdom in my parenting, because it is just such a big deal to me. And I'm sure it's obviously a huge deal for you guys too, which is why you're interested in reading this book in the first place. So get this book. There is this book. I got mine on christianbooks.com, but it's going to take longer to ship. I got it because it was just a little bit cheaper than Amazon. But that was because of some special deal. So there's Amazon, Christian Books. I will attach links below. And there's also ebooks if you're not much of a reader and you'd rather just listen to it. Either way, there are just options. But the podcast, if you're not really familiar with podcast is not going to just be reading the book. Podcasts are just like topics that are going on in our world today. So yes, get your book. Another thing I want to encourage you guys to do, if I know there's quite a few people that are local here in Bartlesville who, maybe I'm already friends with and they're interested in the book, but there are quite a few of you guys who are interested that live in Texas, that live in Kansas, that live in plenty of other areas, but you are interested in reading this book with other moms. And so what I want you to do is, if you have a mom friend that would also be down to read the book that lives nearby you, also invite them to the group so that they can also read it too, so you have somebody in person to talk to. I have some friends that like we meet every kind of Friday and we kind of just do coffee and stuff. So that's just a great opportunity for us to kind of be able to read this book and talk about it in person. But we're also doing this so that way there's no stress of always having to get everybody together to meet, because we know mom life, that doesn't happen. And it's not convenient to get everyone together. So this group is convenient so that you can come to it anytime, wherever you're at. But if you have a friend that lives nearby that also wants to read the book, I would just encourage you to do it so that you can also talk to somebody in person about it. Last thing that I was going to tell you guys is I'm not going to make this super formal because I've never done something like this before. I'm just excited to read it with other moms. But there are discussion questions after each chapter. So I thought that I might kind of put up another video and just maybe with just my answers, and everybody can kind of answer in the comments below, or you can make your own video about your answers. Just however, that way we can kind of just have some discussion about it, or even just, maybe it's not even discussion, you just get your thoughts out written down, and you just formulate your own thoughts on things. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to do it every Friday. I'm going to try to have something so that way maybe we can go through like a chapter a week, and on Friday I'll have a video, and that way you kind of have all weekend to, as you're just going through social media, this pops up and you're like, oh, I can answer my questions now. So make time to read this book. For me, I like to watch Netflix. I like to do a bunch of other things, but I try to at least read for like 15 minutes before I go to bed. So that helps me, just, it's better for my brain to, not just be staring at a screen, but right before I go to bed. So just some motivation there. Anyway, get this book. I'm super excited. This is something I'm super passionate about. Not because I know a ton about it, just because I think it's extremely important. So, grab this book. I'll have some links below and we will get started. And I'll try to have our discussions ready by next Friday. So order your book soon. All right. Goodbye, guys.